So I want you to pay attention to what happens in your body when I say the following. We need to make business more human. It's time to bring more heart and soul to the way that we work. Or how about we need to create more loving work environments? Think about what you experienced when you heard the words humanity, heart, soul, and love in relation to our working lives. Did you feel dissonance, maybe a bit of discomfort? Anybody out there shift in their seat or scratch your head? Maybe you felt disheartened and you thought, oh, that sounds so great, but it's never going to happen. And I am hoping somebody out there said, heck yes, sister, preach. So look, if you felt twitchy, it's likely because these sentiments are counter to the way that we have been taught to work. They push against the rules of engagement that we have been following since way back in the industrial era. But these rules of work, they are broken, and they no longer serve us or the organizations that we work for. It has taken me a long time, stacks and stacks of good books, a couple of decent therapists, maybe even a few, and a lot of professional rebellion to be able to stand here today and tell you that I am absolutely certain that there is a better way. Not only can business and the way that we work be more human, it is time for it to be more human, and it is our moral imperative to make it so. There's probably nobody who needed to hear this message more than my 25-year-old self. That person was a newly minted professional, and she cared so deeply about how we treat one another, and she was on a mission to change the world through her day-to-day contribution. But that was before her light was dimmed, and she realized that it was safer to leave her heart at home and her soul at the door. And after spending just a short time in the working world, that girl, no doubt like many of you, had come to believe that there was only one path to a happy and successful life. And that path was one where you needed to be tough and aggressive, masculine, thick-skinned, and strong-spined. The successful people, they were not sensitive, and they certainly were not vulnerable. The best way that I can describe the early part of my career was painful. I saw organizations reduce human resources to systems and processes. I experienced leadership engage in bullying, harshness, and criticism because they somehow believed that that was the only way to motivate performance. And I worked north of 80 hours a week because I believed that successful people don't fail, and failure of any kind was a devastating outcome. My heart, it screamed out to be heard. But I consistently told it, shh, be quiet, stop talking. You have already been told that nobody wants to hear you at the boardroom table or in this meeting. You and your soft-hearted ways, you're gonna make us look weak. Enough. I guess in many ways, I'm dedicating this talk to that girl. But I also know that my 25-year-old self, oh, she is not alone. And that's because she was initiated in the same paradigm that we have all grown up in. And so I'm also dedicating this talk to anyone who has shared my pain. I'm dedicating it to anyone who has somehow come to believe that being kind in business is the equivalent of being weak. That being optimistic is the equivalent of wearing naive rose-colored glasses. That not being a workaholic somehow means that you are lazy or uncommitted. Or that being vulnerable, tender, or wearing your heart on your sleeve is somehow a risk factor working against your professional success. Yes, business is absolutely evolving, but I don't believe that we have come far enough that there is anyone, whether it's my 25-year-old self or any one of you, who still doesn't repeatedly need to hear that your humanity is not a liability to your success, and your heart is absolutely not a handicap. Through my own experience, a decade of corporate observation across more than 100 organizations, and now leading a team of 150 people in one of the world's most challenging industries, here's what I can unequivocally tell you. Our hearts are the most potent and powerful professional tool that we have. And unleashing your humanity is the competitive advantage of the future. Depending on the numbers that we look at, we spend somewhere in the range of 90 to 115,000 hours of our lives at work. That is 13 full years, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, doing nothing but working. Consider the potency of what would happen and the impact that could be made if people felt free to bring their full selves to the work that they do. If they were supported and encouraged, safe to express their ideas, permitted to experiment and fail without judgment or damaging repercussions. Whether you work in a private business, a public institution, social enterprise, not-for-profit, so many of the problems that we are tackling, they demand the full expression of our human potential. They call for new ways of communicating, collaborating, creating, experimenting, continuously improving. And now, more than ever, our humanity has to be at the heart of the solutions that we create and the way that we work. So let's imagine ourselves in the following situation. You're at the park, and you're on the teeter-totter. And you're the one that's hanging out up in the sky. And the person on the other side, they are heavier than you, and they are committed to making sure that that teeter-totter does not budge. And we have all been there, right? And no matter how hard you try and how vigorously you swing your legs or shift your weight, you cannot get that thing to budge. And at first, it's kind of entertaining. You're like, oh, come on, I see you, but seriously, you're not going to leave me up here for forever, right? And then it becomes a bit annoying. And the annoyance and the frustration, it eventually shifts to hurt. And despite the fact that you are up in the sky, you are just really not feeling very seen. Why doesn't the other person understand how a teeter-totter works? It is only fun when both sides get to participate. And when both sides participate, we get motion. And isn't that what we want? Finally, man, you just become hopeless, and you want off that teeter-totter at any cost, even if it means jumping off and breaking a limb. This is what the modern working world can feel like. The impatient, stern, hard-nosed, walls-up, closed-door approach, it has become overrepresented in the way that we work. Or, if we wanted to stick with the analogy, the heavyweight is still taking all of the fun out of the teeter-totter. And so about a decade or so ago, I was the one who jumped off. And when I made the jump, I'm really happy to tell you that I didn't break any bones. And I got out on the playground, and I started to have a lot more fun. I turned in my crisp white blouse, my pearls, and my power suit, traded them in for skinny jeans and a leather jacket, and I joined my like-minded best friend in a consulting business. We both had always had a hunch that there was a better way. So together we set out on what was the equivalent of a professional pilgrimage to figure out if it was possible to tip the scales, or tip the teeter-totter, if you will, and incorporate more humanity into business. We challenged every long-held belief. We pushed every envelope. We rejected conventions and norms. We had thousands of conversations, all as a part of our 5-year experiment to prove that you can bring your heart and your humanity to work with you. With that knowledge, I went back into the corporate world to see if I could take what I had learned and do my part to help heal it. And every morning, I now wake up and I ask myself, how can I make business more human today? And you know what? Operating from a place of heart and soul, it has not been an impediment on my success. Actually, it has accelerated it. And more importantly, it's been a catalyst for other people's growth. The team that I work with has shown me that human performance is optimized when human nature is respected. I look around and I see people who are operating at the top of their game, who are taking chances and trying things because they feel safe to do so, and who are coming together and teaming up in ways that we never have before. So I want to be clear. There are merits in many modern-day business practices, and I am not arguing that we completely swing to the opposite extreme. This is not an either-or proposition. But gone are the days where systems, processes, efficiency, and profitability can suffocate out human connection and our human nature. The two have got to coexist in greater harmony and unity for both business and our society to thrive well into the future. As convicted as I am, I still get it wrong. I still say the wrong thing. I'm dismissive and quick to move things forward without talking or listening to one another. But that doesn't mean that I stop trying. Changing well-entrenched belief systems, including my own. Challenging norms, pushing convention, asking people to be comfortably uncomfortable is really hard and often painstaking work. Consistently making business more human, bringing more love to the work that you do requires a strength and a tenacity and a stick-with-itness that I could not have possibly imagined. Do not ever let anyone tell you that being hard-nosed and mean is a greater expression of strength than tenderness and kindness. So look, I know that not everyone will lead in the way that I do, and I know that this is not everyone's priority or focus, but if you are the least bit intrigued to experiment with these ideas, allow this to be your invitation to do so. You don't need to be a renegade or a rebel. You don't need to be a bleeding heart in the way that I am a bleeding heart, nor do you need to change everything about the way that you work. But nothing changes if nothing changes. So, to help you, I'm going to share 7 key principles that have fundamentally shaped the way that I work. Number 1, every day decide that you don't believe. So the first step to changing anything is to decide that you just don't believe it anymore. And it is an act of rebellion to stop believing that the generally accepted rules of business can't be changed. They can. And the only reason that they continue to thrive is because we give life to them. Number 2, put your own mask on first. Learning to accept that this is the form that I show up in and acknowledging that there is absolutely nothing wrong with me or the many, many glitches in my personal system, that has been the work that has changed my life and my leadership. If you want to see and celebrate other people's humanity, you need to start by celebrating your own. Dance with your gremlins, invite your fears to sit beside you, get naked with yourself. If you want to lead with more humanity, I promise you that dedicating yourself to your personal work will be the most important professional work that you do. Number 3, disconnect to connect. So let's not be under any illusions. These contraptions of ours, they may make us more connected, but they absolutely do not create connection. When someone emails me about something that is the least bit tricky, I pick up the phone and I call them. And when I have something important to say, I meet face to face. Technology is a tool, and it is a good one that helps us in many ways, but it cannot look someone in the eye and say, I see you and I hear you. Number 4, questions start conversations, answers end them. I have never met a problem or a hurt feeling that wasn't in some way connected to communication. And while I can't teach all of you to be better communicators here today, that's a whole other TEDx talk, I can give you a cheat code. Next time that you're in a difficult conversation, prioritize questions over answers. So questions like, can you help me understand why that's really important to you? Or even something as simple as, can you be more specific? Questions are an act of vulnerability. They show that you don't know something or that you're curious. Learn to be the best question asker in the room and watch what happens. Number 5, hunt for what lies beneath. I have found that there is a truth about humans that it may not be totally universal, but I would say it's pretty close. And that is when we're upset, when we are underperforming, when we're in conflict, you can almost always be certain that the real issue isn't the one that you're talking about or seeing, it's the one that lies beneath. And those issues can generally be boiled down into one of 2 things. Number 1, you or the other person is navigating some kind of fear. You're scared of something. Or 2, someone has a need that's not being met. Looking for what lies beneath, discovering the fear or the need, that is an act of generosity. And I promise that there is always something to be learned in that space. Number 6, a clean cut heals faster than a jagged one. In case it is unclear to anyone here, bringing more heart, soul, and love to business does not mean avoiding the hard things. In actuality, it's really about confronting the hardest things that we tend to avoid, things like giving difficult feedback or sharing tough news. When I resist the hard stuff, I remind myself that a clean cut always heals faster than a jagged one. The human and loving thing to do is to deal with something quickly, directly, and honestly. And number 7, don't let the bozos get you down. Accept that not everyone is going to get you. Not everyone will agree. Some people, they might tell you to toughen up. But if you care about making business more human, you already know that there is nothing weak about being brave-hearted. Stick with what you know to be true, and don't ever let the bozos get you down. So while I don't believe that the corporate world should be the wild west of emotions, the time has come for us to balance things out. For us to move forward and tackle the challenges that we face, we need to team up, we need to listen to one another, and we have got to have one another's backs. Making business more human is about getting to the point where using the words humanity, heart, soul, and love in relation to our working lives doesn't make us recoil in discomfort, but actually gives us the comfort that we need to do more and to be more. Making business more human is about being courageous enough to take down the facades, wipe away the veneer, come out from behind that power suit, and to sometimes just try a little tenderness. For those of you who feel called to change the way that you work and inject just a bit more humanity in how you do it, I urge you to get to it. The world and your workplace needs you. Be defiant, refuse to accept a convention or a norm here or there, be a shift disturber, and do it all with a little more heart and a hell of a lot more humanity. Go and make some righteous trouble. My 25-year-old self says thank you.